Our first NBA draft prospect that we'll be scouting this season is Labaron Philon, a guard out of Alabama. Now, he's in his sophomore season, standing at 6'4", 177 pounds, and he's exploded onto the scene. He's one of the leading scorers in the country. He's averaging 22 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 5 assists on 52% shooting from the field and 37% from three. Talking about the strengths, let's start with his twitchy reactions with the ball in his hand. I think he's one of the best guards in the country when it comes to what decisions to make with the ball in quick setting scenarios. Now, in a slower paced game, I think he does end up making some good decisions, but specifically on the break, I think Philon excels with his ability to get to the basket and either find a kick out or take the ball to the rack himself. In the slower half-court settings, we see Philon be able to dissect defenses a lot, but highlighting the NBA's high pace, especially during the regular season, and talking about how that translates with Philon, if he can run, get to the half-court line before an outlet pass is thrown, I think he's unbelievably dangerous with the basketball in his hands on a 2-on-1 or a 2-on-2 break because he's unbelievably crafty going downhill. I think he's a good driver of the basketball, and what really makes him effective as a scorer when it comes to driving the basketball is his ability to finish over slightly bigger guards and forwards. Now, what we really haven't seen is him go up against elite level rim protection consistently, right? You don't really get that in college basketball because there aren't too many big men traditionally that are going to translate to the NBA, right? You look at some of the big time centers in the NBA right now, Jokic, Zubac is a big time rim protector, Rudy Gobert. I can't really think of a lot. Embiid. These guys didn't play a lot of American basketball when it comes to looking at who's starring in the league right now. Whereas Philon is going up against guys that will definitely not crack a G League roster for the majority of these games that he's playing. So I do want to see what he looks like against traditional NBA rim protectors. But like I said, he has shown an excelling ability to finish at the rack over bigger defenders. I just want to see him do it against even bigger defenders than what he's going up against. But that being said, let's continue on the strengths list. He can score at all three levels. He is the game plan for defenses when they're going up against Alabama. Him and Aiden Holloway are major threats from three-point range, as well as, his ability to get past his first defender, get to that second level at the elbow. I honestly think that's where he's most dangerous, but I'll get into that in just a little bit. The greatest setting that you could put him in is dribble drive penetration with the ability to kick out to elite shooters. He reminds me a lot of James Harden in that aspect when it comes to his ability to get past first line defenders, make that second defender step up or somebody crash down from the three, and then his ability to be able to dissect that, either finish the ball himself or kick it out for three, is pretty unmatched. It honestly looks a little vet savvy, and I think that just has to do with the fact that he is a second-year player, which a lot of people would have a knock on, but at the same time, I think he was a draft prospect last year and chose to come back to really polish off his game, and he's definitely done that. He's improved his three ball from year one to year two. I believe in year one, he shot about 31% from three. That's all the way up to 37%. While, a lot of casuals would say 6% increase is not that much when you're talking about from three. I think that's a huge improvement to his game. I think he's got good playmaking skills, especially when he gets matched up on bigs, right? You see this happen a lot with smaller, quicker guards. They try to expose centers and force a swap from a wing quickly so that they can either exploit that themselves or let their teammates do that for them. He has unbelievable angles on these bounce passes that he throws off the pick and roll. Once he rolls, or, he is the ball handler, right? He comes off the pick and roll. He gets to that elbow spot. This is where I'm really highlighting the, best parts of his game. Off a pick and roll, he dribbles into the elbow there, and he has the ability to step it back from three, drive it all the way to the basket himself, or he has these, like I said, really crafty bounce passes that get to the big men down low. He has a real knack for finding that. I'm really impressed with it because, like I said, that's not something that you see 18-year-old kids out of high school doing too often. Philon can do it at the highest level in terms of the college game. But last but not least, on the strength side of things, he has an unbelievably high motor on both ends. You don't see him take a lot of plays off. He makes up for a lot of his size issues with his engine. He is constantly moving around either with or without the basketball on both sides of the floor. He's an on-ball menace. He harasses defenders, especially smaller and or lighter guards, which is a rarity in college basketball right now with him only being 177 pounds. But it definitely happens. And when he gets into somebody's grill, that ball is getting poked out immediately. You see a lot of on-ball menace type stuff. Very impressed with his ability to continue to fight on both ends of the floor, despite being the best option for Alabama on the offensive side. You see a lot of these number one options on the defensive end of the floor, especially in college basketball, either A, take plays off, or B, not be the highlight of 2-3 zone or a 3-2 zone or man-to-man, guarding one of the best offensive players on the opposing side. But Philon definitely does that. Now, is he your primary defender on the best scorer of the night? Absolutely not. But he is more than capable of doing that. But, every prospect, of course, comes with their weaknesses. Let's hop into it. For starters, I think a lot of his weaknesses come centrically from his smaller frame. It's harder for him to shoot over longer wings. He's only 6'4". His wingspan looks like he's maybe 6'5", 6'6" wingspan. Now, he's got, like I said, he gets in there and pokes at that ball. But offensively, I don't know if he's going to be able to finish over NBA rim protectors. He's going to have to get extremely crafty, kind of like Keontae George has done with the Utah Jazz. But now we're in year 3 of Keontae George, and we're just now seeing this unbelievable play from him. It's going to require a lot of refinement and development, coachability. These things are like big-time highlights for what it takes to be a small guard trying to finish over NBA bigs. He's going to get hunted on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to playing physical guards. Actually, quite frankly, it's both ends of the floor. I think a guy like Marcus Smart is going to get right up in his grill and, cause a lot of havoc. I think of Lonzo Ball and Patrick Beverley in Lonzo's first year. Pat Bev is not exactly one of the best players in NBA history, but he is a harassing defensive menace, and I do think that could absolutely affect Philon's game. We saw it earlier this season with Purdue. They really played a physical game. I believe that game was on the road, so he struggled just a little bit from the floor. We'll talk about some of his big-time defensive games later on in this podcast episode, but overall, Philon, the number one worry is, will his smaller frame impact his playing style on either end of the floor? Secondarily, sloppy passes are a part of his game right now. He gets way too deep on drives sometimes before he decides to kick out. On pick and rolls, like I said, with those bounce passes, they look pretty clean, but sometimes he's trying to force that ball into too tight a window. That kind of just goes with a typical NFL quarterback hero ball mentality. I think Philon is constantly trying to make plays to win games, and sometimes he just forces that into those windows where it's just too tight. It either gets tipped and it's going the other way, or the player who catches the ball just simply does not have the shot that he needs to put it up. So it ends up either being a turnover or a bad shot. Now, sometimes that forceability pays off and it gets into needle in the haystack type stuff, or threading the needle. And he can do that at a high level. But like I said, it's kind of a coin flip right now in his game. We'll talk about the turnovers a little bit more later in this video. And then secondarily, shooting. I think he's going to need to become an elite shooter to stretch defenses out. Philon needs to become a guy where defenses are trying to guard him severely or heavily from 27 feet out. He needs to be a deep, deep threat so that he can isolate more. If he has to play close to that three-point line to get that 37% shooting that we're talking about his improvement in, it's going to be a problem in the NBA. Look at 19 out of the 50 point guards that are 6'4" and below. Like I said, 19 of them average below a 35% field goal percentage from three. Philon cannot be one of those 19 to 50 guys, because if you look at those, who they are, it's guys like Marcus Smart who have made a career off of playing defensive player of the year type defense. I don't think Philon has the frame or the size nor the physicality to do that. What makes him special is the fact that he's so light and quick on his feet that he can move around the floor at an extremely high pace. That's not his strength. Putting on more weight won't help him. He needs to become a deep threat. Like I said, 19 out of the 50 average below 35%, but that means that 41 of the 50 point guards that are 6'4" and below average over 35%. That shows you exactly the type of player that NBA teams are looking for. If, 62% of point guards are shooting over 35%, that means you're going to have to as well. So improving the shooting continuously will, make or do wonders for his game. So overall, Philon to me is on the lower end of the lottery, while overall potential really isn't as high as some of these high-end guards, the guys from Kansas and Illinois and whatnot. I do see two things that add a lot of value to his stock. Number one, I think he's got pretty high basketball IQ, and his shot creation for himself is otherworldly when it comes to SEC guards. And he makes his teammates better. He's a complementary player and will fit well in a modern NBA system that runs fast. Secondarily, his high motor on both ends of the floor will absolutely help him see it more often. One thing is certain, his energy keeps him on the court when he's struggling from the field. Now, last but not least, I want to talk about the fact that he's played 8 games against top 100 defenses in college basketball so far. Listing out the teams, you can go check the game logs. Tennessee, Kentucky, Arizona, Clemson, Florida, Gonzaga, Illinois, and Purdue. Clemson was the best defense that he's played so far this year. He scored 29 points on 9 of 17 shooting, 3 of 7 from 3, 3 assists, 2 turnovers. It was probably the best game of his collegiate career just because Clemson is a top 10 defense in the country. I was really impressed with how he was able to score those buckets, especially in transition. But holistically, looking at the 8 games that he's played against top 100 defenses, he's shooting 44.5%, averaging 22 a game on 36% from 3, and his assist to turnover ratio was 1.48. Which, when you look at those statistics, the scoring is good, shows you that he's attacking the game even with the best defenders in the country on him. He's averaging 22. That's impressive. But you could see that his shooting numbers take a dip. 7 percentage points in the field goal percentage and 3 percentage points or 2 percentage points actually in the three-point shooting percentage category. And then what really ticks up is his turnovers. He's averaging 3.375 turnovers against the top 100 defenses. He's going to have to refine that if he wants to play up against savvy NBA veteran defenders who are going to have the passing lanes on lock when he gets to the league. So those are my thoughts about him. I think he's a pretty high-end mid-round prospect. I would not be surprised to see him go as high as 8, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see him, based off the rest of his college career, go as low as probably 19 or 20. That sweet spot between 13 and 16 is exactly where I would draft him. I think he can be a guy that provides immediate support and minutes. He has a lot of experience in terms of younger NBA prospects, but at the same time, the potential there is not nearly as high as some of these high-end guys. Philon is intriguing to me because in other drafts, I believe he'd be a top 5, maybe top 6 pick. But with how stacked this 2026 class is, there's just no way in my mind that he goes anywhere higher than at most 7. So that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out my other NBA prospects. I'll be posting more throughout the rest of this college basketball season, as well as the NBA off season before the draft. So thank you guys so much for watching again, and we will see you next time.